She thought she was reaching for the stitched rectangle, but fate had other plans. The sandwich was crooked, the plate was warped, and the sentiment cut completely off center. Now armed with nothing but a bone folder and sheer determination, she's back in the craft room, ready to layer, emboss, and reclaim her dimension. Will her cardstock survive another pass? Will her new release order finally ship? Will she remember where she put that one flower die? Tune in for another chapter of Die Cut Diary, where every cut has a story and every layer has a little drama, only on JMarieDesigned.
Hello, crafty friends. Happy Friday. Oh, let me get that out of the way. Set it somewhere where I'm not going to knock it over. Welcome to uh season 1, episode 1 of the Die Cut Diaries. So, when this all came into my head, my first thought was Craft Room Chronicles. And it was just kind of a time to hang out, chat, do whatever. And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it like an old-timey soap opera. So the song, I hope that kind of reminds you, of an intro for one of the soap operas. Growing up, I didn't watch them, but college, I was a diehard General Hospital fan. One Life to Live. I never did get into The Young and the Restless, but so yeah, welcome to the Die Cut Diaries. I am glad you are here. Let me know when you hop on where you are watching from. If you are watching from the replay, hello, replay. I am glad you are here. If you guys wouldn't mind if you would hit that thumbs up and, maybe subscribe. That would be fantastic. Then you get notified when I go live or when I upload new content. So, my goal is to be live every Friday at noon, and we'll just chat and craft and, we'll see if there's new goodies. I have new goodies coming today, but they didn't make it in time to do a little unboxing live. So those will be uploaded later. But today I am going to play with the Altenew Sweet Jasmine set. I've had this for a while. When I first got back into stamping and card making after my back surgery, I loved entering all the Altenew contests, all the giveaways, and Jeff was always amazed when I would win. And so this was one of the sets that I picked up with some of my winnings. And I loved it because it had the stamps, the coordinating dies, the layering stencils, as well as the embossing folder. And this is a 3D embossing folder. But we're going to talk about the embossing folder a little bit first. I was watching Lost in Paper. I think she's in Australia. I think that's who I was watching. But anyway, she had talked about this universal plate system. You can print out from the Spellbinders site the like your plate sandwiches, which is what is on the sticker on your plates. So with this, then you can get this compatibility guide, which shows you like which sandwich is recommended for which dies. Well, not all of them are listed. And, because we're a nerdy family, um, we have gadgets. And so with this one, so like they're listed here, like how thick the folder is. And I suppose, you could set it down on a ruler that had millimeters and measure it out. But for my laser cutter, I have calipers, which tell me like the thickness of wood or mylar or whatever material that I'm working with. So I pulled those out last night and I measured, let's see if we get it where you guys can see the thickness of, what? There, the thickness of the embossing folder, so that I kind of knew, okay, it's 3.5. So I went to the little chart here, courtesy of Spellbinders, and I found one that was similar. So I've got 3.4, 3.8, and that is listed as number 2. So number 2 here is the platform, the embossing folder with your paper, and then the adapter plate, which is the gray, this gray plate here, plate D. And so I am going to emboss some vellum, but that's kind of what led me down this whole rabbit hole, was how to emboss vellum without it cracking. Because I love the look, but I couldn't get it to ever work, especially with the 3D folders, to where it wouldn't crack. So what I did, I learned that if you put it over a piece of cardstock, and this is a heavyweight vellum. I haven't tried it with the lighter one yet. And this is just an 80-pound, just a piece of cardstock that I use for my like what I stamp on. And then I'm going to put that in my folder, and I have the raised side on the bottom and the other side on the top. So the writing is on the top. And then I look back and I'm going to go with this sandwich here for D. And you can find this at Spellbinders /universal plate system. So if you're looking at like if you find the plate system, just Google plate system and it comes up with the universal plate system. If you scroll down, it'll give you the sandwich guide to print out. And then if you scroll a little farther, which I'd never looked, then you can find this compatibility guide, which comes in very handy. All right, so let's go. Let me grab my plate here. So I have my A plate, my folder, and my D plate. And I have to stand up to do this because cranking this thing sitting down hurts my shoulder. And it might wiggle the table a little bit, so if the camera wiggles, that's why. And this does not feel like enough resistance at all. So what I'm going to do is I am going to add my little shim in here and see if that helps. And you just kind of have to go with it until you find the sandwich that works. And that's too much. So that one doesn't work. So let's try, and I don't remember how I did this now because I did it last night and it worked fine with this combo. Because the cutting plates are lighter, so you don't want to do those. But let's do a piece of cardstock as just to see if that builds up enough resistance for it. That's a little better. Let's add one more. So it is just trial and error because some of the machines you'll find are different. Everyone's different, so they might have a different resistance. So you just have to play with your machine until you get kind of the look that you're going for, or the pressure that you're going for. Okay, so hopefully that worked. And there we go. So here is our embossed place. And the nice thing about this is that you get two um two designs out of one pass. So we've got our white paper pass and then our vellum. So what we're going to do with the vellum is, and let me show you the card front that I made last night, and that's the look kind of we're going for. Let me find the base. So this is my base, and then this, I used the layering stencil after I embossed it, ink blended over it, and then I put it in my Misty and stamped it, and it gave it this like almost comic book look. But I loved how it turned out. So this is going to be our little project for today, but we're going to do different colors on the flowers. They are jasmine flowers, and today we are going to go with pinks. And I pulled out the pinks that I have from Simon Hurley. And yeah, sorry about that. That's the acetate that I keep on my mat. Oh, I have to show you. I got a glass board. I just got the little one because I don't need a whole desk of magneticness. But I love this, and I love that it's got the different card sizes on it here too as well. I keep it, kind of lined up this way. I like it the horizontally and not the vertically, but it's just kind of the right amount of space for what I need to do. And if I want to do like some ink smushing or whatever, I can set it off to the side to blend my inks on. Um, and it works really well. And the other thing is those magnets are super strong. All right, so we're going to start with stencil number 1, and I love that they're all labeled, and they're pretty easy to, especially with the vellum, because you can kind of see the little white outlines. This is a very well loved stencil. It was one of my firsts, and so I have used it a lot. So this magnet, even though I've got the sticky mat on here, I can put it on top of to hold my stencil in place, and it sticks all the way through. So these are like some super magnets. I know they're the rare earth magnets. So the first ink we're doing is piggyback, and I'm going to zoom back in. Let's go one more. There we go. That's better. So now you can see. And I'm just going to load up my little foam dauber, and I'm just going to lay down some ink. And it is very light, and there's pink underneath, so that part might not show up on camera, but we're going to do a couple layers. And one more. And then I'm just going to give it kind of a little dab so I don't stick my fingers in it. And then our next one is on the same stencil. So this is the next one we move down to. And I just gotta find where that lines up. There. And now we're going to Rosy Cheeks. And I'm just going to use the same brush because I started with the light and I'm going up. I'm just going to stick with the same one. And I'm just kind of dabbing it on there. Little swirls and get these little buds here. So yeah, I was pretty excited to find that chart. And then also, you know, with the calipers to measure and find my my center points. Oh, that looks so pretty. All right, then we're gonna go to number 3. And I gotta, there we go. And I love this magnet. It's also great if you're die cutting to kind of toss your dies on that you've used. And then, all right, so we're not doing this one, we're just doing these petals here and these little buds in the dark. So this is our darkest, our third color. And I love how these inks blend on the vellum. All right, let's give that a little wipe because we're going to switch colors. And so I don't want to stick. And then, oh, there we go. We got to go back to our number 1 and we're going to get just our little centers. And it's just 2 little places. But gotta switch. And we're going to use some Slippery When Wet. There we go. Wipe that off. So now we are going to switch to our greens. And so we're going to start with B1 and line this up. And I kind of use this to tell me kind of where to stop. So I know I'm not doing, you know, the ones up here. So we're going to start with Overzealous. There we go. If you guys have, you know, any questions, any conversations that you'd like to see in future episodes, I'm really excited about it. I know it might seem kind of dorky, but I think it's going to be fun just to as kind of a chat and hang out kind of thing. Fridays for me aren't, you know, busy. I'm waiting on, you know, some new design team stuff that's coming to today, but it's not always going to be like that. There's a Kendra's Card Challenge hop tomorrow, and then there's the live stream hop and the winners video on Sunday. So I've got a video coming up tomorrow for the hop. And all right, so that was B1. Now we're going to go to B2. Find my leaves. There it is. And I only have two greens, and so I'm just going to use the same Overzealous again and just kind of go over it, let it dry just a smidge, and then go over it again. So it's just a kind of chat craft. If you've got, questions about techniques or, things we can figure out together. Um, or if you just want to hang out. Hey, Brian, I'm glad you're here. Brian will be live at 2 p.m. on the Cat Scrappiness channel. We're just hanging out, but I'm glad you joined me. It's just a kind of chat, craft. I talked a little bit about the embossing folders and using the platinum um, and how I'm a nerd, which is funny because when I was on Split Coast Stampers way back when I was, when that's what we had, we didn't have um, all the things, there was no Facebook or anything like that. So we had Split Coast Stampers and people had blogs. But my name on there and my blog name was Stamp Geek, which is very appropriate because there are certain things that I feel kind of nerdy about. Using calipers to measure my embossing folders so I know how thick they are is one of them. All right, so we're going to move to a darker green, which I'm going to use Later Gator. And we'll go in with this one. Are you all ready for your live today, Brian? Brian does some really fun fold cards. All right, we're gonna let this one kind of dry for just a second. And I think just because it's vellum, it sits kind of on top for a little bit. So I'm gonna just kind of pounce. Oh, okay. Well, just let me know, Brian. I look forward to your lives. Your fun folds are great. I actually did one that you showed, the ladder or the lattice one was really cool. There we go. All right, now for the big reveal. Da, da, da. I love that. I love how it looks. All right, so we're not done yet with this. Just gonna swing it around a little bit. We are done with the beast, so I'm not lifting it. I'm just gonna move it off to the side. That thing kills my shoulder. And move the ink pads out of the way so I don't stick anything in there. Let me get my little baby Misty. And so now what I'm going to do, yes, the slatted Z fold. That one was so cool. I didn't do as many strips as you did, but it was fun to do. So now I've laid this down in my Misty and I'm just getting it stuck on there. Let me grab my stamp that coordinates with this as well. And this is just the sweet Jasmine. Hey, Anna Marit! How are you, friend? See, without Elizabeth going live, I don't get to see my friends, my online friends. And then we're just gonna, with the white lines on the embossing on the vellum, you can kind of see where to line this up, and it does not have to be exactly exact. But pretty close. And my fingers twitch because of my medicine that they give me for my back, the nerve medicine. And so my fingers twitch, and so I'll get it laid down just right, and then bloop, my fingers. I'm gonna grab a magnet real quick to hold that vellum down so that it doesn't go moving around. All right, then we're gonna pick this up here, and I'm gonna be using the Black Widow, which these new foam pads from Simon, and Elizabeth always has to remind me, gentle, gentle, are so juicy that you just really light taps. I've made a few messes by going in a little heavy-handed, but I love, this is my new favorite black, especially for Copics or anything like that. And then we're going to give it a good push. And it looks, you know, I kind of like I missed a few places. We're going to do it one more time, but that's actually the look that we're going for. And it's because of the embossing on there. But I just love how it looks. Look at that. Isn't that cool? On lunch. Oh, that's right. Honor Marit had to go back to work. All right, there we go. Oh, I love that. So I'm going to take this out and let it dry a little bit. You can see that ink kind of sits on the top, but isn't that a cool effect? It looks like a comic book, I think, or I don't know, something cool. And so I'm just using this archival cleaner. And I know you're not supposed to swish it around, but I do. And it's the one thing that gets my stamps back to looking pretty. So we'll get that cleaned, and then I'm just gonna spritz it with some water to get any residue off there. I was just playing around last night with it, and I was like, oh, I wonder what would happen if I, you know, stamped again, which I've seen Delise do on a few occasions, where she's like stamped real light and then colored and then gone back in with a darker color. So I was like, let's see what that looks like. And I love how it turned out. All right, let's see, where does this go? Right there. So yeah, this was one of the first sets, and I won this. I was so excited. But it also has great sentiments. I love the fonts and stuff, but they also had matching dies, so no fussy cutting. So that was even better. All right, let me put my little magnet away before I lose it. All right, so stencils I will clean. Ink pads I'm done with. So this is the one that I made last night. And then you also have the white, because I embossed the vellum on top of a piece of cardstock. And so you have the embossed white cardstock as well, which so you end up with basically two cards to use. And you could do the same stenciling and stuff on the white as well. But I love just using it as a white base. I would trim this down, and then I have a whole bunch. I sat here last night and stamped and die cut a bunch of the sentiments, and I love the look of just embossed paper. This is another folder from somewhere else. I don't remember where. It's from Creative Expressions. But, you know, you just take this and a little sentiment, and you've got a card, which I think is really fun. So I've got, these two as well. Or you could put this, under I got ink on there, probably on my fingers, under your card base as well. So I'm going to work with the blue one only because it is dry and I don't want to stick my fingers in any more of it. So I'm just going to use a piece. Let me grab a card base. And then I'm going to, let me grab, so there's white. And then here's a light blue, which I love. That looks pretty. I don't know if I am going to matte in black, but even the black kind of gives a different look. But I think I'm going to use the blue. So I'm going to cut this down just a little bit, and then I'm going to cut the flowers down even more. So I'm going to go take a 1/8 of an inch. So it's, instead of 4 1/4, it's 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And then this, I'm going to go down to 4, but I'm going to make it so that I trim off evenly off both sides. And then we will take off a little bit. I think we're going to take off the top. Take off the top, and we're going to go to 5. What did I go this way? I don't remember. 4, but 5 1/4. Card math. There we go. And then it'll go on here. And then I have been using, let me find it, which drawer I shoved it in. With vellum, it's been a struggle to find a cards adhesive that worked, and I've tried, I can run it through my Xyron and do it that way, but even then it's still kind of iffy, and I can't use but I've been trying the just school glue. It's just the purple school glue, but I think with this one I'm gonna go with the Xyron. And I have had this thing forever, so I'm not going to put it up on the table. I'm just going to run it through really quick. And put some adhesive on the back. And they make littler ones. This one is the 8.5 by 11, and so it's kind of a beast. Let me find my we're just going to make sure we get that adhesive stuck on the vellum. Take that off. We'll take our vellum piece off. And so there's adhesive all across the back now. That's the only reason I don't like this is because I gotta be good with getting this laid down. They do make a repositionable one. I don't have that cartridge in at the moment. This is where I need the little Pear Blossom Press ruler. I don't think I got that right. There we go. So oh, that looks good. Then we're gonna just burnish it from the back side to make sure there's no air bubbles there. And then I'm going to I got something stuck in there. Piece of fuzz. See if I can lift this carefully. Yep. There we go. All right, now for this, and this would be cool too when you stencil it. Hey, Bitty Penny, I'm so happy to see you. Lunch break, all these people on lunch. So then get this mounted on here. And this would be cool too with like any pastes or things. And I'm gonna trim trim my crooked part here. A little bit. There we go. So there is our card front. And grab a base. So that'll go on. And then let's see which sentiment. I think thank you. And I think what I am going to do is I am going to it's fine. I think this one I need to re-ink this one because I use it a lot for ink blending. Hopefully I have a lot of silent lurkers. The first bit, it was just me talking to myself, so that's all right. Lurking's okay. All right, let's see if I can pick up a little bit of color. This pad is so dry. But just to kind of knock out that really stark whiteness. There we go. Enough. So there we go. So we embossed the vellum and the white cardstock at the same time. Then we stenciled using the layering stencils. This is from Altenew. This is the Sweet Jasmine set. And then I went back over and stamped the black. So this is actually the one we did today, was the pink. And yeah, I know team replay is always appreciated. The viewers that are here chatting are appreciated, but I just love, I was playing around last night and it just happened to be like, oh, hey, look, that looks pretty cool. So my thank you. Let's get my card on the card base before I there we go. And I know school here starts Monday. So stores have been kind of crazy. All right, then do I want that one? No, I think Hello Sweet Friend. I kind of like that too. I think I'm gonna go with this one, and I'm gonna I'm not popping it up. I know, surprise, surprise. I got a giant glue booger. I'm always on your replay crew, Lady Penny. You are one of my favorites because you do long lives, so I can put it on while I am crafting or recording my videos. I'm not doing my voiceovers, but it's like I have a friend crafting in my craft room with me. And so the longer videos I love because I can just put it on and let it go, and my friends are in my room. All right, so it needs a little bling bling, and these are actually diamond dots, my leftover diamond dots from projects, diamond paintings that I have, and I think I'm just gonna go with some silver. I think silver will look good. Just to give it a little something. And these are tiny, so they make great card embellishments, but they were just leftovers from a kit. And these sparkle. They're little rhinestoney ones, so I love those. All right, let's get our glue. And just put a couple dots around, and then 2 up here. And that's it. We're gonna display some restraint, which I don't have often with sparkles. And we'll just get these laid down. Funny story about my pen here. It's from Cat, Scrappiness, and it arrived when we were having like some of the hottest days that we've had here in Alabama. And it sat on the porch for a little while. So when I brought it in and unpackaged everything, my little wax tips were a little squishy because it had been in the heat. All right, there we go. That was hard. I don't usually, I always want to keep going, and sometimes less is more. I have to remind myself that with the sparkles especially. I want to put too many on and then it looks funny, and then I regret sets in, and So this is our card today. So I'm glad you joined me for the very first episode of the Die Cut Diaries. That's my soap opera voice. Um, but we embossed the vellum with the white cardstock according to our chart here, which can be found on the Spellbinders site. If you just search the universal plate system and then scroll down, this is on there. Well, I love that there is all these measurements here. So what I did is I took my embossing folder and my nerdy calipers, because I'm a nerd, but these are actually from my laser cutting. And isn't that fun, Bitty Penny? Okay, let's zero this out. I measured how thick my embossing folder was, just to know. So this says 3.5. And then I came to the chart here and I found one that was similar. And so it said plate number 2. Well, plate number 2, or sandwich number 2, was not quite thick enough. And so I had to add some cardstock shims in there, and until I got it to where I wanted it to be. So this was a great resource. I suppose, if you didn't have nerdy calipers, that you could just use a ruler that had millimeters on it and measure your thickness of your pads that way. But it was nice to see here kind of what, because I always struggle and then I go through, okay, we got this one, and then I'm switching out plates and it takes me forever to find the one that works. So that was a great resource find. But I found that listening to Lost in Paper yesterday. So we've got this. Then we've got our 2 impressions because we embossed the vellum over the cardstock. And this is a thick vellum and it did not crack. And that was my other struggle. And that was where I went down yesterday looking for how can I do this? How can I emboss vellum with my folders, the 3D folders, and not have it crack? So a couple suggestions I found were thicker vellum, and this is a pretty thick one. And then to put a piece of cardstock in with it. And I guess the cardstock probably kind of absorbs some of the dimension so that it doesn't crack the vellum. And then we stenciled using the different pinks, and those are from Simon Hurley, and the greens and stuff. And then I put it in my MISTI, lined my stamp up, and stamped over the top. And so it gives it kind of this comic book dimensional look. And it is, you know, it is raised up. So there's that dimension as well. So that is my card. That is my project for today. And Anamrit, I'm very, very, oh, bye. Proud of you for cleaning your desk. I'll talk to you later. Have a good afternoon at work. Or night, I suppose. It's nighttime. Yep, it's almost 8 o'clock there. I learned it's 7 hours from me to Anamrit. And I know Biddy Penny is on lunch too and probably has to get back to lunch. And Brian, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon and a great weekend. 7:46. Yeah, it's 12:46 here. So thank you guys for popping in. I appreciate it. I will be back. Well, actually, I will be here Monday for Moody Monday, the not too shabby mood board challenge. And then Tuesday evening, I am on Cat Scrappiness for some creativity inspired. And then next Friday for another episode of the Die Cut Diaries. I feel like when I talk like that, I need to have, like the lady on my intro, my hair up in curlers, you know, and a muumuu robe on and a cigarette hanging out of my mouth. You know, like someone that's listening, you know, has the old old TV and they just their whole life is to watch their soap operas. But anyway, thank you for joining me, you guys. Remember, always be kinder than you need to be because you never know what someone is going through. So just be nice. Hey, Christina, I'm just finishing up, but there is the replay, but I'm glad you saw it. I'm glad you're here. Anyway, much love, y'all. Take care. Have a fantastic weekend and do something for yourself. Do something nice for you and smile at people. Be kind. All right. Much love. I will see you next time. Thanks for hanging out. And here's my catchy little song to take you out with.
She thought she was reaching for the stitched rectangle, but fate had other plans. The sandwich was crooked, the plate was warped, and the sentiment cut completely off center. Now armed with nothing but a bone folder and sheer determination, she's back in the craft room, ready to layer, emboss, and reclaim her dimension. Will her cardstock survive another pass? Will her new release order finally ship? Will she remember where she put that one flower die? Tune in for another chapter